power and grace of horses stir our emotions. We're intrigued by the famous feral horses of the Camargue. We show distant admiration for their exotic African relatives, and are thrilled at the performance of the Perths. But are these horses really so different? Perhaps not, for underneath the stripes, the wild exteriors, and the tutored perfection, they're much the same animal. Nearly all equines are herd-living, social animals displaying close family ties. This has distinct advantages for large herbivores. As prey animals, they're vulnerable. Individuals can take turns watching and listening while others eat, drink, or rest. This cooperation works for plains zebra and for free-living feral horses in the Camargue. Like all feral horses, these are domestic horses which have been allowed to return to a wild state. In both cases, the herd is made up of several family groups, each presided over by a stallion. Despite 5,000 years of domestication, our modern horses, given the chance, instinctively return to the same herd structure. Perhaps that's not so surprising, as all our horses share a common wild ancestor. This is Przewalski's horse. As far as we can tell, this is the domestic horse's closest living wild relative. Today, this most primitive horse probably exists only in zoos. It's doubtful whether any of its truly wild ancestors still roam their native Mongolia. This driving posture of the stallion commands instant attention from the frolicking colts. It's the stallion's way of keeping his family together. The characteristic vertical mane is linked to the tail by a primitive dark stripe along its back. The stripes on the legs are also reminiscent of another equally wild relative. A typical family group, band, consists of a single stallion with a harem of several mares and their foals, along with some older fillies and colts. The adults may remain together all their lives, which is about 20 years. Stallion's role is to keep the band together and stop other stallions stealing the mares. Competition between mares arouses aggression from time to time. But the social structure of the group is generally based on leadership, friendship, and cooperation. These strong social bonds keep the group together. The wildness inside our domestic horses has been suppressed for centuries. But if you look closely at individual elements of their behavior, you can see how certain actions have been redirected towards us, their owners and companions. This stallion is simply doing what comes naturally. In the horse's world, when a friend scratches your back, you scratch his. Mutual grooming reinforces the bonds between horses that are friends, or in this case, between horse and rider. The horse's sociability and willingness to transfer that to man has meant that we've been able to do much more than simply domesticate it. In many cases, we've harnessed elements of the horse's natural behavior to produce the fascinating array of horsemanship we see today. Horses were probably first employed as pack animals and only later as a ridden form of transport. The horse became instrumental in the development of warfare, both as a cavalry mount and as a beast of burden. We repaid our equine ally with astonishing ingratitude. Of the 1 million British horses sent to the front line in World War I, only 62,000 ever trod British soil again. In peacetime, their good-natured strength and loyalty was put to different uses. In draft work, horses had to learn that they weren't in danger of being attacked from behind, and blinkers were a key feature in this work. They were used to calm the animals by restricting the naturally wide field of view that all horses have. On the plains of Africa, near wraparound vision is vital when scanning the horizon for predators. Zebras' eyes are sensitive to movement in all parts, but the central area of their retina contains a greater concentration of visual cells. This helps them accurately pinpoint potential predators. And those stripes, why do zebras have stripes? Well, there are several theories, but no definite answers. Cramming lots of striped bodies together in a herd blurs the outline of a single animal. The merging body patterns confuse predators and so lower the risk of attack for each individual. But nothing is foolproof. This is no mad horse, simply an animal responding naturally as it would to a predator on its back. An unbroken horse's instinctive reaction to anything on its back is to try and buck it off, a reaction artificially recreated in the rodeo. In the earliest stages, the horse and rider have to overcome this natural behavior. This can be done by brute force or by gradual habituation. One horse will naturally follow another. This following instinct is yet another piece of natural behavior we've learnt to harness in our domestication of the horse. When horses are chased, they clump together closely behind their leaders. Here, these Mustang are responding to the cowboys who are herding them up. Maybe they perceive them as a stallion pushing the group on. In zebra and in free-running horses, the members of each band are constantly being herded by their stallion to keep them together as a group. The stallion drives his band rather than leading them. He's always anxious to keep his family group away from other stallions. He's particularly watchful of his foals. These won't become pure white until they're fully mature. Sometimes there's conflict and the stallions will threaten one another. Here, one of the stallions decides to resolve the situation by moving his group well away. He takes up this classic herding posture, his neck low and snaky. His group respond by moving on quickly. Horses not only herd each other, but people too. These police horses, which are geldings, are being used to control the carnival crowds by gently persuading them to step back. In a similar way, an older mare polices the younger members of the group by shoulder barging through their scuffle. Riding skills have adapted the natural shoulder barge, or shouldering in, into a gentle controlled barging which encourages the crowd to move back and allows the carnival to pass through safely. So strong is the wild stallion's instinct to herd his band that some predators have learnt to exploit this by continually harassing the stallion. Eventually, the stallion will be unable to keep his band tightly together, and the wild dogs will be able to cut out a young filly or a colt. This particular group had discovered that their success rate when taking zebra improved if one dog grabbed the tail while another latched onto its upper lip. Such trust comes from establishing and building an intimate relationship between horse and rider. Horses are social animals, and the relationships they have with us mirror those they have with each other. Greeting is important for social animals. It's their way of getting to know one another and also of establishing and reinforcing the bonds which keep a group together. Horses greet each other by nose blowing, sniffing and nuzzling each other. Some horses also greet their owners in this way. For zebra, most social interactions are peaceful. So long as there's plenty of food and water, competitive situations don't often arise. So a firm pecking order, while it may be there, is not nearly so apparent as in a domestic situation. Here we supply water for our horses in small tanks. If several horses need to drink, they follow their pecking order. It's usually an amicable agreement after the horses have learnt who must drink first. On the other hand, when water is at a premium and the horses don't know each other, obtaining a drink can become less orderly. These are brumbies, the wild horses of the Australian outback. Several bands may use one waterhole. The stallions jealously guard their mares while they drink. At the waterhole, family groups are forced closer together than the stallion would like. Each stallion attempts to establish his group's precedence by making threat displays. Each tries to chase the others off, displaying his agility and size in gymnastic moves as he defends his mares. These are the famous Lipizzaner stallions of the Spanish riding school. No mares here. These stallions have simply been trained to perform elements of their natural behavior, much exaggerated. Back with our wild stallions, we can see that two family groups have become too close to each other, and a fight has become inevitable. Stallion fights begin with the contestants rearing up on their hind legs and battering each other with their front feet, trying to knock each other over. The teeth are also used for savage biting, especially at the neck. In high school dressage, the rider is prompting the horse to perform a similar movement to its rearing posture, which transforms into the elegant courbette. As well as attacking, stallions need to defend themselves. They can do this by wheeling round to avoid being kicked in the face by an adversary. This too has been translated into an elegant dressage movement, known as the pirouette. Most scenes of open rivalry occur when a marauding male tries to seduce a mare who belongs to an established stallion's harem. Dung piles then become the center of an elaborate and ritualized ceremony. These stallions are particularly aggressive because one has a mare in season. Nevertheless, they're keen to avoid injury. What follows is a symbolic fight, a display. There's a lot of sniffing and reading of scent signals. Stallions can learn a lot about each other from their dung. The idea is that the stallion who dungs last can stay in the area. In this case, the loser decides to bow out and herds his family out of harm's way. Even domestic stallions feel the need to create dung piles in their own stables. When they return, they feel compelled to check their dung for strange smells. They'll renew their own familiar odor, as if reasserting their ownership of the dung. Smell is a powerful method of communication among horses and zebra. A mare signals her readiness to mate by releasing an erotic scent in her urine. This strange face is the stallion's way of sampling a particularly interesting smell. By grimacing like this, the exciting odor is drawn back over a sense organ in the roof of the mouth. Convinced the message comes from one of his mares, the stallion checks out which of them might be requiring his services. Courtship among horses is a cautious affair. The stallion has to woo his mare, as only she knows when she's truly ready to mate. She will often smell right, but not be totally fertile. So the stallion must be patient and continue with his courtship routine. The stallion often performs an elaborate pre-mating ritual which involves high stepping to catch his mare's eye. This is another piece of natural stallion behavior which has become an important dressage movement, where it's known as the passage. Mating often takes place with the current year's foal in attendance. Zebra mate only once a year, as both they and horses take 11 months to produce their offspring. Horses and zebra have the ability to delay the exact timing of the birth until they feel it's safe. It's usually during the night or early morning. When a mare is giving birth, both she and her offspring will be vulnerable to predators and scavengers. The time immediately after the birth is vitally important for the mare to bond with her new foal. This is when the young foal learns to recognize its down's smell, voice and shape, and in the case of the zebra, its unique stripe pattern. This foal has yet to fully discard its birth membranes, a fact of which the scavenging jackal is only too aware. If the foal is to survive, he needs to ditch the birth sac quickly and prepare to run with the herd. When you can't fight a predator, you must at least be able to flee from it. It's very important that a new foal is quickly accepted as a member of the group. Establishing a group identity is vital for zebra and horses alike. They do this by dust rolling, a good way to cool down and rid themselves of parasites. Rolling spots also become associated with a group smell. The stallion always rolls last to leave his smell strongly associated with that of his mares. But it's not all high-energy activities. Horses have extended periods of rest as well. During these times, they use body language and body shapes to communicate their sense of well-being. Even this most passive piece of behavior is something that we have exploited in our domestication of the horse. It's the ability of the horse to stand motionless for hours on end. This really isn't cruel, as the horse can move into a phase of suspended animation. They're half asleep when they take up this posture. The head is low, and the ears switched off in the doze position. The knee joint, which is high in the back leg, can be locked, enabling the other rear hoof to rest up in this position. It's this piece of natural behavior that the sentry horses are employing as they stand on guard for an hour at a time. This tour of duty fits into the horse's natural cycle, where they indulge in 2-hourly bouts of eating, sleeping, and being alert. During relaxation, safety in numbers may offer some protection from land-based predators. But for aerial attackers like horseflies and mosquitoes, herd animals might seem to provide a never-ending banquet. Against these predatory bloodsuckers, nose-to-tail cooperation helps. The tail of one horse keeps the flies off the face of the next. If you stand alone, the flies soon get the upper hand. They seek out droplets of sweat and moisture around the eye. For horses and zebra alike, it's always best to doze with a friend. Stripes may also help the zebra. The African tsetse fly's eyes pick up on large dark objects, so the zebra's striped bodies may not be visible to them. Zebras certainly get bitten by them less frequently than some other animals. So the zebra's stripes may help to protect them against biting insects, as well as against big predators like lion and hyena. This flight reaction is a normal response among equines to any potential threat. It's the natural behavior of a prey animal. They're programmed to run first and look later. It's this natural fleeing response which man has come to harness and take advantage of in the sport of horse racing. Escaping from the feeling of being trapped in the stalls at the beginning of a flat race could be just the stimulus the horses need to set them off. When on the run, horses often threaten others who attempt to obstruct them. Aggressive horses can be seen arching their necks, rolling their eyes and flashing their teeth. This can frequently be seen as racehorses jockey for position. In the wild, horses don't usually gallop and jump at high speed over long distances. They're natural predators who make a kill or give up after a short chase. But that doesn't mean they don't have the potential. All young horses play at escaping and racing, and any well-fed horse loves to burn off energy running with the herd. Even a riderless horse demonstrates the desire to stay with the herd and continue the race despite having no jockey to urge him on. In the wild, only when the predator has broken cover and is in hot pursuit will an equine break into a top-speed gallop. The whole sport of horse racing is based on nurturing the natural behavioral tendencies of the wild horse. We've taken a social animal and exploited its social instincts and tolerance. We've shaped its behavior in playing, fighting, communicating, and even resting, and used them to our own ends. But whatever role we might design for our domestic horses, perhaps we should pause and consider that just beneath the veneer of training and apparent compliance, there most certainly lurks a wild animal harboring wild instincts, feeling of